People aren't going to give you their money without first giving you their time.
Hello and welcome to Funnel Masters, the show where top marketers expose the inner workings of their sales process and share their best takeaway tactics so you can replicate it for yourself. I'm your host, Andy Fletcher, and today's Funnel Master uses one-page video-on-demand funnels that demolish live and auto webinars. He has the coolest video analytics software ever, a client running over $1 million a month in ads, and believes that every funnel should have a video in it. Here to tell you all about it is Funnel Master, Patrick Stiles. Hey Patrick, thanks so much for coming on Funnel Masters today. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm super pumped.
Excellent. So let's dive straight in as always. So start with what the funnel. So what are you going to be talking to us about today?
I'm going to be talking about what I call a one-page VOD funnel that demolishes live webinars, auto webinars, and it's definitely something that people are moving towards. The smartest marketers and like your audience needs to do the same as far as I'm concerned.
See, I'm really excited about this because I've been consistently rubbish at webinars my entire career. Yes. I've spent like the last decade of my life being terrible at them. I've just got vaguely good, and you're about to tell me why I shouldn't be doing them. So I'm going to love this.
Well, maybe the reason why you're rubbish at them are because of all the things that work against you when you're trying to launch a webinar in the first place. I mean, it's kind of like by design, hard to get started with, and it's hard to scale. And it's kind of like designed to make you fail because of like all these factors working against you. But, I can dive into that in just a moment if you have anything else that you want to cover first.
No, let's get straight into it. Like on the show, we're all about like getting into the interesting bit. No backstories, none of that rubbish. Like we're all about the meat.
All right. You don't want to hear my hero's journey of my terrible childhood or anything?
I mean, feel free to tell us. We can edit it out afterwards.
Yeah, right. let's skip that. So cool. But yeah, no. So what I was saying though about webinars is like, all right, let's say you're doing a live webinar and you don't have an audience, you don't have a list or anything like that. And you go out and you buy ads, right? And it's like, how do you even pick the date that it's going to be on? Because like, you need to kind of scale up your ads, and either you're picking a date that's too far off in the future, and it's going to be like, oh no, like, I don't want to like start marketing a webinar that's going to start in like, 2-3 weeks. Nobody's going to remember it. Nobody's going to show up. And then if you pick it too soon, you may not scale your ads in time to actually build a meaningful audience. So then like, say you run your ads for a few days, you get a few registrants, and it's like, what are you going to do? Go and do a webinar for one single dude? Like, that's just not going to convert. So doing the whole kind of live webinar thing is a pain in the ass to get started with. And then additionally, like your other option is to go and get an affiliate to promote it with you. And listen, there's different ways to do this where you can like give somebody money and be like, hey, I'll guarantee you like this kind of like EPC or like whatever, dollars per registrant, whatever the metric is that they care about. But then it's like you're practicing on somebody else's audience, which is like an awful way to bomb, right? It's bad enough when you bomb, but it's, even worse to do it when you're doing it in front of one of your peers that's doing you a favor, and then like, in front of an audience and things like that. But, so it's just like you have this iterative process and you can't split test it. You can't easily measure it. You can't do anything like that to really kind of understand, like, how am I going to get this thing from crap to like successful scaling marketing offer that's going to, print cash, like it's its middle name. So
cool. So what do we do instead? Walk me through it.
Okay. So like, all right. So one other thing, right? So people are like, oh, well, I have an easy solution for that. It's called an automated webinar. And these were all the rage, busting on the scene a few years ago. And I'm sure we've all seen auto webinars. We've maybe even done some ourselves, but personally, I think they're shit. I'm allowed to say that, right? They're shit.
Yeah. Total shit. Hey, you've met me. Yeah. I swear a ton.
All right. So anyways, yeah. So like, the reason why they worked in the beginning is because they were tricking people. People were like, oh my God, what's this? Oh, wow, a live webinar. I'm going to go to it. It's starting later today. How coincidental. And it's just like the infomercials in the early 80s when they deregulated the off the air time and people started, pumping out infomercials. People thought they were actual shows. They thought that, hey, what is this new novel thing? And now today you see an infomercial and you're like, oh, yuck. This is some like cheesy, like high production kind of, gimmick thing. So anyways, that's why the auto webinars worked a lot in the beginning. And I don't know if you've heard the news, but a lot of these are beginning to fatigue, right? And I learned this shit the hard way because I wasted 2 years of my life building webinars, and I was running into all these exact problems that I'm sharing with you, right? So like no hero's journey here, but basically it was just like, my back was against the wall trying to like iterate and test this thing and figure out how it's going to work. But, when you go and do an auto webinar, the problem with it is that, first of all, people know that it's fake, right? They can see through that, right? Like a 2-hour presentation that starts every 15 minutes with the same exact presenter that starts the same exact way. Your audience is not that stupid. Stop lying to people. Like, listen, you can ask my ex-wife. Starting a relationship with dishonesty is never a great idea. So yeah, no, that's not what I did with her, but I sabotaged that relationship in different ways. But it doesn't take a genius to know that when you lie to somebody, that's not a good way to start a relationship. So do you really want to deceive your audience coming in here and being like, hey, come to my live webinar? So the other option is that you basically, tell them that, hey, this isn't live, and then you're undermining the entire purpose of the thing, right? Where, the urgency, the scarcity, the value of it. And then it's just like, hey, why do I have to use this annoying software that's super clunky, that's in my way, that I can't split test with, I can't easily track or do anything like that? So this is the epiphany I had after 2 years of banging my head against the desk, trying to get webinars working, and it just wasn't happening. And what I realized is that some of the smartest marketers out there, like Russell Brunson and some other ones whose name I can't remember right now because I didn't come with a list. But, but seriously, like more and more marketers, Joel Irway, this guy's doing it. More are going to come to me. So anyways, expect that coming. But anyways, some of the smartest marketers are no longer doing these auto webinars or anything like that. They're doing what I call VOD funnels. And that is a video on demand. Right? And it can be, hey, come to my training, come to this on-demand class. Hey, there's no bullshit here. This is a video. It's yours to watch it, consume it and do with it as you please, And what's so powerful about that is it just kind of pulls open the Komodo of just saying like, hey, here's the content. I have something so good that I don't have to trick you into watching it. I don't have to lie to you to make you think that this is more valuable than it is, because people know when they're being manipulated. Right? And only the dumbest people are going to allow that to happen. So if you're still using the old methods with webinars, then you're only going to be attracting the absolute worst customers possible. And who wants those? They're going to be a pain in the ass. They're going to refund, charge back, complain to your support, always ask for discounts, things like that. But when you're just kind of straight with somebody and you talk to them like they're a real human being and that like, what you're offering is just, plain and simple, it changes the dynamic tremendously. I cannot stress that enough. So what we've actually done at Vidalytics, right? So like we're a video marketing software and like we like enable a lot of these things that I'm about to talk about, but you can do this with Convertri. You can do it in different ways. You can maybe not do everything that we're doing that's super advanced. Like if you want to kind of go out there, because like, I don't want to be like, hey, buy my shit, like here's a great idea and you have to give me money for it to work. But like there's other ways to make this, happen. But basically, we are driving people straight to a landing page with a video on it that's locked with what we call a playgate. That's an opt-in. So somebody has to opt into it before they can unlock the video, right? And what this automatically does is it takes that webinar sequence of coming to an opt-in page, opting in, going to a registration page, getting 50 emails about showing up to the webinar, going to the waiting room, downloading software, doing all these things, right? It compresses all that stuff down to basically one step on one page. So people opt in, they unlock the training, and then we have a bunch of bells and whistles there where we can tag people and we know exactly how far they're watching. So we can say like, hey, you missed half of the training, like come back and, catch like this next tip, or this next thing that we were about to talk about, or, hey, you saw the offer, but you didn't see the final price. There's a discount waiting for you. We can drive them back to that video and the video picks up exactly where they left off. So what's so powerful about that too, is like, they don't have to start the entire thing over and we don't have to go through all these different gimmicks, but we can still personalize exactly what's going on there. And we can tie that into our CRM so that the two things are talking to each other. So we know exactly, where people are watching and we can send emails based on that. So I've been talking a while. Why don't you interject with something?
No, cool. Like I'm really fascinated by what you have to say, man. And to be fair, I do quite like to see how long marketers will keep going when I just stay silent.
Okay. I was like, this is really getting monologue-y.
Yeah, no, I quite like that. No, so cool. I know we said like no hero's journeys or whatever, but tell me a little bit more about how you developed this, because it sounds like something you didn't come to like all in one go. Like you probably like got this piece by piece. Where did this start? Where's the origin of this thought?
Well, listen, like, like I said, I was banging my head against the desk for about 2 years, trying to get webinars working, dealing with like affiliates that were flaky or audiences that didn't convert or, traffic that just was a pain in the ass. And it was like, I'm kind of ashamed to admit this. But like, it was like, man, maybe we should use our own software for this, because really I had the epiphany that like, hey, I can get people to come to my webinar. I can get people to engage with this thing, but if I don't have the right analytics on this, then I have no idea what's going on, right? And it's just like when you have the right analytics and you can see where people are engaging and where they're tuning out, or like, and when they're actually buying, like what parts of your presentation, of your content is actually driving the sales, well, then you're able to like basically extrapolate back to conversions, right? It's like, so like, Vidalytics, as the name implies, we have a bunch of analytics in there. And it's basically like a treasure map for figuring out, where the conversions are. So like with that, like, if everybody is bailing in the first 10 seconds, then, you're screwed, you're screwed, and you got to throw the thing out and start over, but not start over entirely. Right. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. Right. And this is one of the biggest things that I would recommend to anybody that's doing any kind of video marketing is like measure how people are engaging with your video. And if they are bailing in the very first part of it, then just rip out that part, because it might just be how you're opening your video. It might be just like, the visuals that you're using. It might just be whatever is the content in the first like 30 seconds of your video. And if that sucks, then, and they bail, then it doesn't matter, because the rest of your video could be great. Like the teaching, like the engagement, really kind of building that scarcity, that urgency, that rapport, the emotional desire for your product or service, whatever you're selling, then like that might be fine. And you might just need to take out that first part, and you just keep doing that. Hold on. I guess I should go this way from left to right. The opposite way for me. But anyways, you rip out the first part of the video, you get that, the engagement up there. We aim for at least 50% of people making it through our lead, right? So the lead is like kind of the opening arguments of your video, the thesis as you will. And it's like where you're kind of doing the introduction, you're handling major objections, and you're really kind of laying out what we're going to talk about, and why somebody should listen, and why this is different from anything else that they've heard, right? So that's the lead. You want 50% of people to make it through that. If not, either your lead sucks or your traffic sucks, right? So it's either a targeting thing or a copy thing. But you can get people through that, and then you need to get them through the rest of your video, and you just do it one chunk at a time. Right. And we break a video up into about 5 or 6 different chunks, like the lead, the story, the sizzle, the product reveal, bonuses, guarantee, urgency, scarcity, those types of things. And we're just looking to get as many people through there as possible. I think it was Perry Belcher said, people aren't going to give you their money without first giving you their time. So listen, I'm a direct response marketer. So I care about conversions and cost per clicks and like, the hard numbers. So I'm not somebody that's like out here being like, oh, I need people to engage with my content. But in this case, you need people to watch your video. Otherwise, it's not going to turn into any sales.
Right. I think that's the classic thing. It's the same with, particularly in the like internet marketing niche, everyone's got like the standard funnel. It's like a front end, upsell 1, upsell 2. And I've worked with so many guys there who like can't get much traffic to the front end, and they can't get the front end to convert. And they're like, upsell number 2 is converting really well. I'm spending a ton of time optimizing it. And you're like, why? Why have you done that? Like, seriously, go like, if they're never getting there, like, why are you optimizing it? And I love that about this idea that we can see where the problem is, see where the bottleneck is. Like if they've watched the first minute and like literally the graph goes like that, like we know that's where the issue is.
Yeah. If it looks like a plane crashing and people are just bailing out of there, like, oh, yuck, that's what we call it, the oh, yuck factor, right? They go, oh, well, I don't want to watch this, and you're absolutely right. It applies to funnels and stuff like that. You want to start at the top and work your way from A to Z, going from the top to the bottom, or in this case, in a video, we think of it as left to right, because that's, kind of the linear fashion that people watch it. But yeah, and they should absolutely start with like that simple stuff at the beginning and work on those engagement things.
Cool. So I want to go back. So you said you break videos up into 6 different sections.
Yes.
Can you walk me through what those sections are and like how you think about each one? Because that sounds super useful.
Yeah, sure. So hopefully I can remember this on the fly here, but basically there's the lead, right? And that's, like I said, kind of the opening arguments and things like that. Then there's going to be the story, because, what most is, so like, Vidalytics, most people on our platform are running VSLs, and we have some VSLs where like our, biggest users are spending like over $1 million a month on ads, driving it to videos. And really a VOD funnel, this anti kind of webinar kind of funnel thing that I've been talking about, it's really just a VSL with a few kind of bells and whistles so that it's congruent with the webinar model of like, hey, opt in, training this and that kind of stuff. But anyways, so most VSLs, start with the lead. Actually, not most, all of them do. Everything has a lead, even if it's like, hey, welcome to my video, or whatever. It's got to kind of have that like opening hook, attention grabber, and like address anything important that needs to be said. It's such as major objections or, kind of major benefits, why this is different, and creating any open loops. And that's where I was going with this, because before, how most stories are set up is like, hey, I'm going to tell you how you can, cure your baldness, right? That product didn't work for me, but maybe it exists out there.
Why are you talking about that, Patrick?
Yeah, you're not bald. You at least have some fuzz up there. So I was bald as a baby's ass. So that's for all the podcast listeners, during their commutes or wherever they're listening to this. But anyways, so it's like, hey, I'm going to teach you how you can, cure your baldness. But first, let me tell you how I discovered, Dr. Malfoy or something like that, like, I don't know. This isn't very good, like on the fly. But the point is that, you go through the lead, you hit the major points, and most leads are going to be a couple of minutes long, right? And I'm always a fan of the shorter, the better, but as long as it needs to be. So, not like 30 seconds, like just kind of like, diving in there real quick where people are going to be like, hey, trying to have sex on the very first date or something like that. But basically, getting people, all the information they need, to basically engage with the content. But anyway, so there's a lead. Typically, you're going to open some loops before you go into the story. And then the story is basically
so if anyone listening doesn't know what's an open loop.
Oh yeah. So an open loop would be like, hey, I'm going to tell you this information, but first, let me tell you how I discovered this secret. Let me tell you how I discovered this tactic, right? And it could be like, I spent 2 years banging my head against the desk trying to get a webinar converting, right? And that could be like a very condensed story, right? And, obviously if I was doing this in a video, I might kind of flesh that out with some dramatization, some kind of emotional resonance and some things like that, where it's going to kind of like amp up, like, basically, how people are feeling about it, because people don't buy with their logical brain, they buy with their emotional brain. So anyway, so we got the lead, you do some open loops, you do the story, which is basically how the product was discovered. And then there's the product reveal, which is like, all right, and I found, this bottle of pills that does this thing. I found this training. I found this mentor. I found this system, whatever it is, the unique kind of thing that is different, that's going to solve their problems. That's the product reveal. And, and that's basically where it's like, it does X, Y, and Z, and you're going to go into all the sizzle, in the product reveal, as far as like, this is what it is, this is what's included, this is how it works, this is why it's awesome. And the real kind of key here in the product reveal is talking about features and benefits, not just features, but benefits as well. And then from there, you're going to have, basically, this is where it kind of gets dicey, and it can go into a few different sections, but basically you would have things like, the price reveal after the product reveal. It's like, hey, normally it costs $1,000. Today it's yours for, $10, that kind of thing. And that's basically where you build up the value and then you bring it down. And normally you're adding in some bonuses before that, but then afterwards you're also doing things like you're removing risk with a guarantee. You're building additional value with additional bonuses. And then you're also creating urgency and scarcity as best as you can. And then, of course, call to actions, So those are the
tell
parts.
them to buy the thing, because we
like, hey, get started now, click the button, fill out the form, pick up the phone, whatever the call to action is.
Excellent. That sounds fantastic. So let's move on. What's the single biggest win you've had with this, or one of the clients of Vidalytics, or what's a great success story with this?
With VSLs, VODs, Vidalytics, what are you talking?
Any part of it you'd like to talk about. The VOD funnel would be great. Like VSL you've run, or like, I mean, you mentioned you've got like a client at Vidalytics running $1 million a month. There, like what's something fascinating like they learned while setting this up?
Yeah, I mean, I think like people think that like a lot of kind of like video hosting is kind of like a commodity. And like what we have found, like, so we're a premium provider, right? And if somebody scales an offer, like we're not cheap, we can cost thousands of dollars in some cases. But like what they have found that like all these little kind of bells and whistles, like the things where it's like having opt-ins, having like a pop-up where like, it's like, somebody pauses the video and it shows a thumbnail that they've never seen before. That's like, hey, wait before you go, right? And it can point to like a button below the video that just appeared only when the video is paused as well. To be like, hey, go watch this text, or don't have time to watch this, read the text instead. And really kind of creating those multiple paths, for people to kind of consume the content, to get the message and to ultimately convert is something that really kind of justifies that cost, and really kind of moves the needle in a way that more than makes up, the cost of Vidalytics and has a positive ROI for people. So, I think that's one. And then the other one too is just having the analytics on it, for video. And this is the big thing I was struggling with webinars. Not only was kind of like the timing of it, or how am I going to present this, in like, automated or transparent or anything like that, but it's also kind of having that transparency on the video to be like, hey, like where are people engaging, where are they falling off? And, one of our biggest users, they are, a 8-figure company, they have dozens of video sales letters, and they came to us just for the analytics, just to measure this stuff, because, they're spending tens of thousands of dollars probably every single month producing these things between copywriters and voice actors and video editors, so they're producing all these things. And that's a big scale production. The right entrepreneur by themselves can do all that stuff, on their own. I did it in the early days. My very first VSL over 10 years ago, I did on my own. But, when you're at that scale and you're putting all this money into it, whether it's time or it's money and resources, either way, not being able to measure this is a big blind spot. And, video is very powerful, but, without that, it's a black box.
That's also, I was about to ask what the biggest mistake is that people make with this stuff, but I have a feeling you've just like hit the nail on the head there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the biggest mistake I think is, maybe like doing a video and just being like, oh, well, it didn't work, and like not really kind of knowing why, or just being like, oh, we need to start over, or video doesn't work for me, or something like that. I mean, I personally believe that in 2021 and beyond, that every funnel should have a video in it. And sometimes it's a hybrid where it's like a video at the top and long form page below it. I'm a big fan of those. Or maybe that content below it is hidden until a certain time in the video. Or, maybe it's something like I was describing earlier, where it's like a video, and if somebody tries to leave, you give them the option to just go to a text landing page where they can skim through the information and consume it at their own pace. But either way, I think that's, video should be one of the main features in every single funnel, bar none, whether it's VOD or anything else. And, because of that, people might try a video and be like, it didn't work for me, or I don't know why it didn't work, or I need to, start over from the ground floor. And I think that's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and really kind of trying to have this agile like approach to video production, where it's just like, hey, let's get something out there quick and dirty. Let's not worry about it being beautiful or fancy or hiring a voice actor or anything like that, because all those graphics and all that fancy stuff is not going to make a shitty video convert, right? It's not going to turn a total dud into a total winner. Those things are going to move the needle maybe 20 to 30% in my experience. So like if your video, if boosting it by 30 or even 50% isn't going to make it a winner for you, right? It isn't going to make it profitable, then all of those things are a waste of time. So what you really want to do is just go out there with a quick and dirty video and test the message as much as possible, and then measure it in some meaningful way so you know actually how it's performing.
That's fantastic. That's really useful. So where are you taking this next? Or like, where do you think, what's the next thing you add to something like this? Where's it going to be going in the next 12 months?
What do you mean?
I'm not sure. So these video on demand funnels, like Vidalytics enables them. Like you must have like a feature pipeline you've got planned. You must have like it would be great if, but we can't do it yet, but we think the market's going to do it. What's coming up?
Oh, you're really asking me to get naked.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, no, we definitely have some things in the works that we think would take it to the next level. But it's probably nothing that I want to share right now. Yeah,
I knew I'd get you to say
probably
that
not. I don't want to make you have to do like an edit job or just like 5 minutes of beep. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's move on to the second section of the show, then the takeaway tactic. What's something someone like listening to this right now can go away and do to start to take advantage of this? Like obviously, like making an entire VSL, that's quite time consuming. I mean, what can they do with what they've already got? What should they add? What's the first step? What can they go and do right now?
I mean, you actually bring up a really good point, right? Because creating a VSL is a pain in the ass. It can be a heavy lift, at least if you overthink it and like you kind of go about it wrong. But if you want to get started with video, what I would do, and this is what I did on my very first video, is I just took a sales letter that I'd written, right? So like a landing page, and I read it. And I threw it into PowerPoint slides and I recorded it on my laptop with like no fancy microphone. I didn't even know how to edit the video. Like afterwards, like how to chop out like a mistake in the middle. So I just kept doing it from start to finish until there were like not too many mistakes. But
I have done that as well, complete with trying to click the PowerPoint thing at the exact right moment to get it to sync up with what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think the timing is not too important, but like, stuttering and messing things up or anything like that, but like, I think just like having that, like, and just test it, Convertri has split testing in it. Like we've used it. It's amazing. Like you should be split testing. So it's like, just if you have a landing page now and it's working, add a video at the top. I call those hybrid landing pages where it's like VSL at the top and then basically the sales letter below it or the landing page below it. And what I like about that is it kind of puts the power into the hands of the person, like, because I don't know about you, but like, I like to speed things up. I hate it when things are slow. Like I hate it when somebody's like, oh, hey, let me take you through this 2-hour training. It's like, no. Give me the keys and I'm going to drive. Maybe I'll crash, but I'm going to teach it to myself. And like kind of having that hybrid like landing page, I think is a really good tactic, but like, don't overthink the video. Just throw it up there. See how it does. That's what I would say. And it's easier than you think, and I think that's where a lot of people get screwed up with video, where they're like, oh, I need to hire like a copywriter and like a production company and like a video editor. And I need this software. I need to teach it to myself. I need to go get this course and all this stuff. And it's just like, no. Just make the pitch, just if you're making a landing page, you're already making the script, just go through that. So.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I mostly I get my team to make these days, but they are horrified every time I make one because I'm literally like, Google Slides, clip art, like big bold text, and I just waffle over the top of it. And it's like, it's fine. It works great. And then we apply the production values later. But my team are horrified every time I do it.
Yeah. And I've had so many people be like, oh, nobody's going to watch this long video. Nobody's going to read this long page. This is ugly. You need to do this. Listen, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. Like, you just got to go and try some things and figure out what works. Like I was recently watching this show where, basically some people were competing over making an offer on a tech company to acquire it, like a little mini Shark Tank. And one of the best advice there that I love is, hey, all of this is right. All of this is wrong. Because everybody there is like, this is what you need to do. And this is what I would do if I was in your shoes. And it's just like, hey, you know what? Like, you don't make the right decision, you make the decision right, So that's some other quote that I can't remember who said, but like, basically you double down on like what you're doing and you make it work. So like any of these things work. There's no one right strategy. Certainly some are easier than others, but you just got to push through at the end of the day.
That's fantastic. Patrick, thanks so much for coming on today. And
Thank you.
We will definitely be including like a video on demand funnel simulation in Simulatry when we release it in November, and we will give you full credit for it, of course.
Nice. I'm so pumped for the launch. I mean, we're getting behind it in full force. So my team's really excited as well. And like, really, this is the other thing. Like we're talking about analytics and stuff, and Simulatry, while it's a difficult name to pronounce, it is a powerful tool to like really understand how your funnels are doing and like how they can perform and to really kind of get that forensics. I know so many times me and my team have like kind of tried to map this stuff out in Google Sheets and stuff, and it is mind numbing. So I'm really pumped to have this.
Excellent. Patrick, thanks so much for coming on Funnel Masters. I appreciate you, man.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Thanks for watching Funnel Masters. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Coming up next on Funnel Masters.
This year we're at 3.5 million ARR. Essentially, Designer is a tool that helps our customers create ebooks from their content. We launched that in 2016. And so we're now up to just under 150,000 customers. The key to successful SEO is understanding what keywords convert. This 20% rule I talked about, where 20% of your people who buy your initial purchase will buy the higher ticket product, and 20% of those will buy the next price point.